What's up, everybody? My name is Jacob Hardison, and today we're going to talk about tuning with tire foam. Welcome back, everybody, to, of course, the lovely Adrenaline RC YouTube channel, where today we're going to talk about tuning with our tire foams. Now, very specifically, we're going to go over my two most frequently used tuning options. Obviously, with tire foams, if you scour the internet, there are about 100 different ways that you can go about doing this. Everybody has their own theories, but I feel like that it's something that can get, you can get kind of lost in the weeds with. So basically, when you go to the track, it's just very easy to keep two things in your mind rather than about 15,000 different options. So those two options that we are going to go over today is going to be gluing our foam, which of course we showed in last week's video how to glue your foam. And then we're also going to talk about V-cutting the center of your foam. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, to start us out here, we're going to start with our glued foam. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to add stability to the car. So there's going to be a couple different cases where you'll want to use something like this. The first one that I'm going to go over is going to be an experience that I had earlier this year. So while we were at Motorama and going throughout the weekend, the track itself until the last day doesn't really get super high bite. However, there were some high speed sections on that track, especially that big bank turn right on the right side of the track before you come through those kind of 5 whoops through the center. So basically what happened was you needed a soft tire or a green compound, a super soft tire. That way you could have something that would dig into the dirt, but you still needed to have the high speed stability. So by gluing the foam, basically what that does is it makes it to where that super soft tire, which has a very soft, stretchy rubber, it keeps it more level as you go around the track. So I kind of like to describe it as an in-between compound, if that makes sense. So you need the tread to be able to be soft and dig into the dirt, but you don't necessarily want the movement or the expansion that the green tire will allow. So by gluing the foam, it makes it to where the tire can't expand, because then the foam doesn't expand. I guess I shouldn't say it doesn't expand at all. The foam will not expand, but the tire could still have a little bit. But basically what it does is it makes it to where the tire stays a lot more level. It feels a lot less squirmy going around the track. It's more predictable. So it means that you can have the grip from the super soft while also kind of having the stability closer to something like a soft compound, or in the way of J Concepts, a blue compound. So this is gonna be something that you're gonna use, again, on those lower grip surfaces, but are also high speed surfaces where you need stability, but you also need to create the maximum grip with the tire itself. The other situation where you would see something like a glued foam is, let's say you're on a really abrasive track, it's really hot outside, and when it's hot outside, as we know, things get softer and get squishier, get more squirmy. So by gluing the foam in a situation like that, it allows the tire again to have more stability. It doesn't get that weird, you get back on the throttle, has a bit of a waggle to it. Obviously, a lot of that is also going to depend on the setup of the car itself, but it basically means that the foam can't squirm around and get really soft inside the tire, keeps it more level, and is going to allow you to have a more consistent feel around the track in that type of surface. So as a quick recap for our glued foam, let's say you're on a really low grip surface, but you need speed stability, or you're trying to look for something that's kind of a halfway compound between a super soft and a soft. That's a good time to use it. And again, the example I used was Motorama. The grip on the dirt wasn't necessarily ultra abrasive, but you did need the stability on those high speed sections. The other situation, of course, jumps to, I guess, kind of the entire other extreme of the spectrum, which is going to be you're on a really hot day, track is really abrasive, and you just need the car or the tire itself to not get squirmy. Now, another thing I will also go over is that for buggy, which is our wheel and foam that we have next to us here, it is going to be a more up in the air option. You have more, I guess, thought to put behind it. I don't know. But you don't necessarily have to glue the foam. Whereas a situation where I would always glue your foam, because again, a green is a super soft tire. If you're driving a truggy, that is something that I do usually well, 100% of the time, I do glue the foam because the tire is so big and there's so much availability for movement and expansion, and the tire is already really soft. Anytime I glue up a green compound truggy tire or a super soft truggy tire, I do recommend always gluing the foam. That way you get a very stable car around the track. Again, because the truggy tires are just so big and there's so much movement with them. As you go into the stiffer compounds with truggy, just like buggy, you have a bit more of a decision-making process, but definitely on green truggy tires, I would always glue your foam. Now that we've gone over our glued foam situations, now we'll go ahead and talk about our V-cut. And then of course, after this, I will go over how to make the V-cut. So the V-cut in our foam, now this one isn't cut yet, I'm saving that for when we do the tutorial side. But basically on the center of our rib here, you're going to effectively, as I drop my foam, cut a V into it. So you're basically cutting out the very center part of the rib, leaving the outer parts of the rib still available. Now the reason to do this is, let's say you are on a lower grip surface and you need the tire to have a little more surface area to it. That way you get more traction. Or, maybe it's a tire that you don't have a chance to break in, but you need it to be as grippy as possible out of the gate. What that V-cut is going to do is it's going to, again, kind of flatten that tire out, give you more contact patch, and give you a bit more grip out of the gate, basically. And it's going to be something that you're going to mostly see on lower grip surfaces. It's going to effectively soften the foam itself because you are, of course, removing it. So in some cases, you could make it a little better on a bumpy track as well, because again, it has a little bit more squish to it. It can kind of absorb the rough stuff a little bit more. But the time that I personally use it most is on like our indoor track here at Adrenaline. We'll usually use a silver compound Ellipse Dirt Web 2 double bar. And what this is going to allow is, as we know, silvers usually take a few runs to break in before they're at their maximum pace, at least especially here on our indoor track. So it makes it to where, again, when you do that V-cut, you get a little bit more contact patch, and it's going to allow the tire to dig a little bit more into the track and give you more grip right out of the gate. So that way you don't have to spend as much time breaking it in. It isn't going to be the golden ticket to meaning that your tire is not going to need that break-in process, but it does help to speed it up a bit and give you a bit more grip. That way, while you're racing around the track, you have the best opportunity to, of course, go the fastest and win. That is pretty much the main time that I use the V-cut personally, is just when I'm looking for a little bit more grip, a little bit more surface patch. I can't say that I personally have used it in other situations, and I definitely feel like that the majority of the time that you see something like that would be on those lower grip situations. So now that we've gone over our couple of tuning options that I personally use these for, gluing the foams and our V-cut, we'll go ahead, I'll spin you guys around to our kind of behind overhead view, and then I'll show you how to V-cut your foam. All right, so here we are in the hot seat with our unmaimed foam, our uncut foam, and we're going to show you, of course, how to do your V-cut. So this is how it's going to come out of the tire. Of course, you'll need to flip it inside out. That way you can get access to all of your little riblets here on the inside of the foam. And then you're gonna take a lovely pair of scissors. Now, this is gonna be a very straightforward process. You don't need a lot of tools for it. You do just need your foam and your scissors. Now, I will give you a heads up. I've done this before. I've been successful at doing it before, but I can't say that I'm the most spectacular at doing it very pretty. So we're gonna go over the process, but bear with me a little bit here. I'm gonna do my best. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our foam, and of course, as you can see, I already have it inverted inside out. You're gonna take the edges of it, and then you're just going to pinch it. What this is gonna do is it's going to expose this top part a little bit more and make it to where you're less likely to getting too wide of a cut, and it's just a little bit easier to get access to it. Another thing you can do is you can pinch the other sides of it too, and then really kind of get it fully exposed as much as possible. But that's a little bit harder to manage. So we'll pinch our tire. We're gonna pinch our foam, take our lovely scissors, and then you're just gonna take a nice little chunk. And that's it. I feel like that's not terribly uncentered, but that is the entire process. And all you're gonna do is just do this around the entire tire. Obviously, the more centered you get it, the more perfect it is. So in theory, the more consistent If you're slightly off center like I am here, it's not going to make a massive, massive difference. Now, if you're like way over on the edge, then you might have a bit of a pickle, but you just want to get it as close to the center as possible. And then you're just going to do that same process all the way around. So we'll do a cut, tear off, and there you go. And then you're going to end off basically when you're all said and done with like a kind of Lego looking tire. You've got your little Lego blocks here, but you're going to do that process all the way around. Again, keeping it as centered as possible, so that way it's as true and as perfect as possible. And then of course, you're going to be doing this on most likely all of your tires. If you do the V-cut, you're not going to do it on just one foam. And you can see we already have 3 little foamy guys hanging out here. So it's probably a good idea to have a trash can of some sort or a bag. That way you can get these thrown away, because it will make a complete mess. But that's the process of doing your V-cut. The V-cut, again, is going to make the tire a little bit flatter. It's going to make the tire a little bit softer, which is going to mean that out of the gate, you'll have a little bit more grip. You'll have a little bit less of a break-in period of time. So this is a good thing to do, especially if you're at a big event. Maybe you don't have a whole lot of track time to be able to, run tires, get them broken in. You're putting on a fresh set of tires, and you need the tire to be as grippy and efficient as possible right out of the gate. So thank you for joining me today in learning about our different tire foam gluing options and tire cutting options, the 2 most common ones, of course. And we'll see you guys next week in an all-new video.